Welcome to the network of interesting dreams. Here, your dream can come true. Click here to participate in the survey. While Rob was surfing the internet on another boring evening, an interesting advertisement popped up on his browser. Dreams can come true? What a funny joke. Rob's expression remained cold even though he thought the intriguing ad was a funny joke. But it's really interesting because it's the first time he's come across such an advertisement, so he actually went in to have a look. He wasn't afraid of data-sucking viruses or anything else, because he was a high-level hacker without pride. His computer is secure to the max, and he's also not just an easy target. He was after all one of the lords of the darknet. The real interesting thing about this ad that provoked Rob is that no ad could appear on his computer because he had already taken care of this issue long ago. So how can an electronic advertisement breach all its security walls and appear in front of his face? This is really interesting. The moment Rob clicked the ad link, his computer screen turned red and many childish questions appeared in his eyes. But he knows that answering these questions will make his servers analyze this virus faster and eventually finish it. Welcome to the survey from Network of Interesting Dreams. Get excited, because today is your lucky day. Oh, he said today is my lucky day. Damn you. 1 dash, which anime or manga world would you like to live in? Please record your answer here. Rob answered without hesitation. One Piece. 2 dash, what is the most interesting thing you can do in this world? Disclaimer, if your goal is not interesting enough, your survey will not be accepted and you will be disqualified. Think carefully before scoring your goal. Please record your answer here. Rob thought, well, what could he do in the world of One Piece that would be so interesting to this damn virus? To be a pirate king? No, it's too tacky. To be a Yonko? No, too corny. Well then, what about the fleet admiral? No, very frequent idea. How about being a revolutionary? No, too corny. It will be a celestial dragon then. Rob's enthusiasm slid down again as he searched One Piece fanfic stories in webnovel via his phone. Unfortunately, the celestial dragon was a frequent idea too. What the hell? Nothing is interesting here. Rob is starting to lose his temper because he hasn't really found any interesting idea of his goal in the world of One Piece. What about the harem king? No, it's the most fucking idea. Only the sea kings have not been desecrated by the damned transmigrators. Rob continues scrolling through the fanfic's ranks in his browser until particular fanfic caught his attention. This is it. I will become the king of mangakas. Finally, Rob found something interesting that might be accepted into the survey. He hesitated a bit, but eventually scored it. Create One Piece manga in the One Piece world, and let the world of pirates enjoy the future. Let the great age of pirates become more chaotic. Rob breathed a sigh of relief when his goal was accepted and continued answering the survey questions. 3 dash, do you want to be strong from the start, or weak to strong, or just a weak man in the background? I want to be strong so that I don't worry about my safety. 4. Do you want a random or specific reincarnation? Let it be random, but I want to be handsome. 5 dash, to what era do you want to move? After the God Valley event, see calendar 1493. If you could wish for 4 abilities that could help you with your goal, what would you wish for? 1. Photographic memory. 2. Devil fruit without any side effects can freely create, edit, and modify the paper according to the user's imagination. 3. A high-level system can help me spread my art all over the world. And it is better if available within a dimension store that sells items from the modern Earth that can be bought with reading points or something. 4. High-level drawing talent. Your survey has been accepted. Thank you for your interesting idea and have a nice trip. What's going on? Rob noticed that the red light emitted by the computer screen was getting so bright that he couldn't open his eyes at all. After a while, clarity returned to his sight, and he was able to open his eyes again. But when he saw the scene in front of him, he was shocked by its absurdity. The blue sea was covering his entire field of vision. In Rob's mind, an incredible idea appeared. Could the survey be real? Too ridiculous. Looking at his surroundings, Rob noticed that he was on a wooden ship and was standing at the stern watching the ship's movement. My head. Shit. Rob's head started hurting like hell as so many strange memories flowed into his head, like squeezing billions of data into a small storage memory. After a few seconds, the headache that nearly split his head subsided until it disappeared completely. Rob's eyes widened as he discovered an astonishing truth from the strange memories that filled his head. He has truly moved into the world of One Piece. Interesting Dream Network congratulates you on your successful cosmic transition. Promised benefits will be dispatched shortly. Please find a quiet place and stay away from any disturbance. A mysterious aura surrounded Rob as if he had been separated from the world. All that was going on in Rob's mind at the moment was, fuck. Because he hadn't comprehended anything from his current situation until now, his so-called genius had become just dust in front of this miraculous confrontation. Even the voice that was repeating in his head like a roar of thunder was something so mysterious that he didn't even know if it could be called a voice in the first place. You have been sent to the world of One Piece. Completed. You have got a special title, Beginner Mangaka. Completed. Beginner Mangaka. From now on, rich thoughts will fall on you like rain. At this moment, Rob felt as if he had entered a kind of enlightenment state, just like the state of thoughts flowing like a river when the mangaka creativity begins to manifest itself in a great story. You have got the immortal body that does not die. Completed. After the mysterious state of enlightenment, he felt a cold feeling flowing through his entire body, and a majestic thought filled with grandeur appeared in his mind. Immortal and never die. Even after he turns to ashes, he can come back in his full body. Even after he's crushed in a meat pie, he can rise again in his full body. This was so horrible. No, this is terrifying by millions of miles. You have got the body of a random man named Rob also, and handsome also. Completed. The picture of a man with a height of 260 centimeters with a fairly handsome face with a sharp stature and weary eyes bearing the temperament of a man with great responsibility appeared, with short black hair, yellow pupils, and a slightly muscular body. This was the guy who got Rob his body. It seemed like a random character, but Rob had a vague feeling saying the exact opposite. This guy is not any ordinary random character. The appropriate schedule was determined according to the desire of the participant in the survey, the current year 1493. Completed. A photographic memory has been obtained that can retrieve all the memories of the survey participant and record them in high-quality mental data. Completed. Once again, Rob felt his mind split into many layers, and memories that were buried deep in his mind began to return one by one, whether it was earthly Rob's memories or Rob from the pirate's world. Everything was restored from the first moment of both people in their worlds. At this moment, something mysterious happened within Rob's soul. As if two people were merging into one, Rob's soul became brighter, as if her level had risen to better than just an ordinary soul. The photographic memory brought back all the memories that had disappeared over time from both people and kept repeating themselves in Rob's consciousness until each of those multiple memories was organized into a very large mental library. At this moment, Rob was crying silently. All his buried memories were recovered, good or bad. For Earth Rob, his most terrible hidden memory was the accident in which his parents died, and he survived when he was 9 years old and was moved to live in the orphanage since that time. And for Rob from the world of pirates, his worst memories were when pirates attacked his peaceful village and his parents were killed in front of his eyes by fierce pirates, and by chance, he was also 9 years old at that time. The weeping face turned into a happy smile when earthly Rob remembered the happiest moment of his life that was buried deep in the river of history when he got a computer for the first time from the kind uncle who was donating to the orphanage at the time when he was 11 years old. As for Rob from the pirate's world, the happiest moment in his life was when he married the love of his life and his adventure partner. Rob froze as he recalled the memories of the man who had to possess his body. His body was completely stiff, unable to believe that this woman was his wife right now. You have obtained a paramecia-type devil fruit, and without any side effects, paper no me, can create and modify paper according to the desire and imagination of the user. Also has the properties of Logia, where the user's body can be transformed into mere paper. It has unlimited possibilities. Completed. Rob's thoughts were interrupted at this moment as he felt a heaviness in his right hand and saw a white, pear-shaped fruit with swirls and spiral patterns out of nowhere. This was definitely a devil fruit. Rob didn't hesitate to eat it in one bite. It tasted very good like any ripe pear. In fact, it was a devil fruit without any side effects really. Even the disgusting taste has been removed. After Rob ate the devil fruit, he felt a mysterious feeling enveloping his body as if he had become very light and could scatter in a stack of paper if he wished. Rob pressed this sudden urge into his mind, because it was not the time to try anything. There are still other benefits to be received. You have got an art publishing system attached to a dimensional store. Completed. Ding. The art publishing system is being prepared. The system is ready. Preparing a dimensional store connected to the modern Earth. Connected successfully. This time, a window like a computer screen appeared in front of Rob, and several notifications rang in his ear, like automated notifications, different from the majestic and divine voice that had been echoing in his mind until now. What is the art publishing system? Rob asked the most important question before he got into anything else. Art's publishing system is a system that has one goal, and that is to make its host a universal artist known to all beings in the world. And how does it work? You've got a very high-level drawing talent. Completed. Before he could receive any response from the system, the majestic voice reverberated in Rob's mind like a thunder blast, and by the end, he felt his 5 senses being enriched by a kind of excellent talent. His hand felt itchy to drawing. His heart felt a passion in order to draw. His eyes were fascinated by the sight of the beautiful blue sea and the fishes jumping from time to time behind the ship's track. He wanted to paint this amazing scenery as quickly as possible. His nose felt that the fresh and pure air of this world could be expressed in drawing too. He felt that the sound of waves and seabirds high in the sky, the gentle wind pushing the sail of the ship, and the feet moving from time to time on the deck, all these sounds could be expressed through painting. He felt his mind receiving a professional and high-level drawing ability. All his senses were filled with this talent. For the first time, Rob knew that any feeling could be expressed through drawing just like in real life. All your circumstances were fulfilled by the Divine Network. Since the Divine Network gave you everything, we can remove everything easily. You can live your life however you want, but you have to follow the interesting target that was included in the survey to the end. If you don't meet it, you will be doomed to die and wipe your soul out of existence. Once again, we thank you for participating in our survey, and we hope to see interesting events that will result from your work in this world. Rob did not dare to think about opposing the owner of that terrifying voice. He nodded his head over and over until the voice completely disappeared from his head. Well, he had to become a mangaka from now on and paint a One Piece manga in the One Piece world as his ultimate goal. That's it all. Chapter 2. A Familiar Wife. After the frightening voice finally disappeared from his head once and for all, Rob emerged from the mysterious state he was in and automatically regained a sense of his surroundings, just like a living human. He looked around curiously and made sure that he was indeed on a wooden ship that used the sail and wind thrust to sail. Unbelievable. I have truly crossed into the world of One Piece. I am not in that closed world anymore. I won't have to hide in that dark and cold room anymore. I won't have to fear being tracked down by Interpol anymore. I got deliverance. That damn survey was real. Fuck. 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 I was finally got the justice by the damned gods. Rob wanted to scream with all his frustration and explosive enthusiasm at this moment, but had to control his voice and shout in a low voice so as not to attract any unwanted attention from the people on the ship. He had a surreal feeling that he could feel everyone on the ship right now, but he didn't try to focus on that feeling any deeper. As for Rob from the Earth, or what might be called his previous life in its current context, he was a very mysterious figure in his previous society, as he was one of the emperors of the dark net and had criminal precedents in the internet world where he had previously hacked confidential data for many countries, including the United States. That is why he was designated a dangerous wanted by Interpol. In his previous life, he was nicknamed Ghostnet. He has never been tracked before. He was 32 years old and living alone. The computer was his only friend, and the world of animes was his favorite world. His interactions with the real society were low, but that didn't matter to him at all because he had found his true comfort in everything he was doing. But now that life is gone, he has a new life. In a life where he already has a family, he has completely fused with the soul of the previous owner of the body and obtained all his memories, the essence of his existence, his emotions, and his desires. From the darkest buried memories to the best and most unforgettable memories, everything was fused into Rob's earthly soul. In short, Rob is better than he was before. No, he's a lot better. The current Rob is very powerful because he got the previous Rob's body. The former Rob who was shy even though he was already married, that character has gone unheeded, because the current Rob is not shy at all. The Emperor of the Dark Net can't be shy in any way. He is a real demon who can do whatever suits his benefits. To be shy does not suit him at all. Rob discovered that the owner of this body was amazingly a member of the Roger Pirates. From the memories he got, this man had met his wife who also boarded Roger's ship only a few years ago and had to leave Roger's ship and follow the one love of his life after she finished her role on the ship of his former captain, of course. This was with the consent of his captain and all his crewmates. Just recalling that kind of warm memory made Rob's eyes wet. After all, he had inherited his ancestors' warm emotions as well. If it was the previous Rob, his expression would have been as cold as ice. Rob continued to delve into the memories retrieved by photographic memory and stow them into accumulated, meticulous data. Rob finally finds out why his predecessor broke up with the Roger Pirates. In addition to love, he had an extremely rare and fatal disease that was diagnosed by the ship's doctor, Crocus himself. When the former Rob knew he would die in a few years, he decided to leave the crew and live a life without regrets, and since his wife loved him too, she decided to devote herself to him and archaeology and help him live his final years without regrets. He was going to die 2 years from now, but Rob caused him to die 2 years early. Rob knew that he could not die under any circumstances because he had obtained a true immortal body from the higher being or beings who had incarnated him in this world, so he was not worried at all. Death was his last concern at the moment. He probably wouldn't die once, never again. The life of former Rob was difficult at first, but since joining Roger Pirates, he has found unparalleled joy and freedom. Just remembering it all brought a pure smile to his handsome face. Rob knew from the stored memories that his current body was proficient in 2 types of hockey, armament, and observation, and had a respectable level in both, as well as mastering swordsmanship. The previous owner of his body was really strong and worthy of the title of a former member of Roger Pirates. His strength could be compared to a powerful vice admiral of the Navy. His talents were very good and admittedly and praised by Roger himself. If it wasn't for the deadly disease he was suffering which made his strength drop and his training made he stagnated, he would have become a strength of the admiral level. After getting to know the owner of his former body well, Rob sighed and thanked him inwardly from the bottom of his heart for giving him a lifetime opportunity that he had previously wished for, but had not dreamed of. The former Rob may have already died, but all his legacy has been left to the current Rob. My dear, are you contemplating the meaning of life alone again? Rob felt 2 warm hands embracing his being and pulling him into a warm embrace. As he was immersed in the memories, he didn't feel anyone sneaking up behind him discreetly. When he was to respond violently, the woman's familiar warmth had already invaded his being and made his stiff limbs loosen once more. He already knew who the woman hugging from behind at the moment was. She was his wife. Someone who never thought he'd meet her in his life, let alone his wife. Not really knowing how to act or what to answer at the moment, he was starting to panic. But before he panicked, even more, a warm feeling penetrated his soul and canceled out every negative feeling that was building up in his heart, and he became calm again. That feeling allowed him to obtain an image that could not be changed from now on. Now he was the real Rob, whether Rob from the pirates' world or Rob from Earth, they became one. This is a fact that cannot be changed. No, I've already found the meaning of life. I don't need to meditate on it anymore. Rob turned towards the beautiful woman with silvery white hair and bright blue eyes and smiled gently before giving an answer that made the woman's heart beat. The meaning of life cannot be found just by thinking about it. A person must live life with all its events until he reaches his understanding of life, and this does not mean that it may be the correct answer, but no matter how wrong it is, the essence of the matter that he concluded himself is the important thing. Before she could even ask, Rob put his finger on the woman's lips and answered her as if he already knew her question before she even asked it. The white-haired woman was completely amazed at how positive change comes from her husband at this moment. She can swear that she felt such an immense life force enveloping her husband that she could even revive the dead. Suddenly, she had the feeling that she was standing before the king of all living things and not her husband himself. It seemed as if the current Rob was not the previous Rob at all. "When will we get to your home, my dear?" Rob removed his finger from her lips before asking curiously. The woman pressed the surging amazement in her heart and answered obediently. She knew that her husband was very powerful, but only today her impression of his power has changed to different heights. "There's not much left. We'll be in O'Hara in 2 days. The group of guys is excited to be back home after all those travels full of knowledge." The woman inside his arms was releasing the mood of an unfathomable scholar at this moment. Yes, his wife was Nico Alvia herself. It seems that he will be the father of Nico Robin. Just thinking about it left his mind blank. My dear. He had already drowned in his endless chaotic thoughts. Chapter 3. Art Publishing System. After sending Alvia away, Rob returns to check what he's got from the creepy voice. The first thing he wanted to understand and fully grasp his functions was the system he had obtained. Whether he will live well or die a miserable death, he will return to the efficiency of this unknown system so far. After all, if Rob doesn't manage to compose and publish the entire One Piece manga in this world, he will die at the hands of the creepy voice. And about the end of the One Piece manga that he's still far from really thinking about, at that time he can only formulate an ending of his authorship, and he won't need to worry about that. Whether the ending is true or false, Rob won't care at all. Because he will basically contribute to changing the future through the manga, and his very existence is going to change a very big plot in the story. For example, will he allow O'Hara to be destroyed as in the original? No way. Will he allow the death of his wife? What a joke. He was madly in love with her. If she died, he would practically die, so also impossible. Will he allow his dear daughter to become hunted down by the world government and live the life of a homeless tramp? No way. Since all of this won't happen, Robin may not even be able to become one of the Straw Hats in the future. And according to all of the above, Rob assumed that creating his own ending for the manga according to what the story's path reached until the end of 2021 in the modern world would be the most appropriate solution. After all, he wasn't just an amateur fan of One Piece, but an insatiable lover of everything about One Piece, be it manga, beaver cards, the Deep Blue Book, or even hypotheses about a possible ending and storyline. He had it all in his photographic memory. He was qualified enough to infer his own end. Okay, now let's see what this art system is. System, tell me what are your functions and what can you do for me? The system can create a dimensional store called an art store anywhere the host wants to set up. The art stores will be controlled by the system, and the art produced by the host will be sold in the dimensional art stores safely and smoothly. The art stores are safe selling points. They cannot be destroyed or looted under any circumstances, even impossible to destabilize, the moment the host decides on a suitable place to open the art store. The store will become apparent to every intelligent being in the area. The art store looks smaller on the outside, but is very spacious on the inside, and the host can design it however he wants. The art store will sell its services for the price, berry, extol, or other currency set by the host. The host and the people selected by the host can teleport from one art store to another easily. For every successful sale of the host's art through the art store, the host will receive the corresponding amount of art points. Art points are the only currency that a host can use in the dimensional shop connected to the system. Your art system at level 1. You can create the art stores at level 1, 0/2. You can create one art store in one region on level 1, level 2, or level 3. You can raise the level of the art system with the EXP gained from the public's passion for your art. The more people like your art and buy it, the more EXP you get. The current, EXP0/100. With one question, the system gave him everything he needed to know at once. What could he say? This system was simple. Very simple, yet very cool. Simply, the system will help him sell his art and attract people to his store. Within his dimensional art store, he would be invincible, just like a god. Everyone would be equal, whether it was an ordinary person or a Yonko, it didn't matter. He can upgrade the system and get more dimensional art stores, thus getting more points of sale, more customers, more berries, and more art points. And don't forget that he can display drinks, sweets, and other modern items from Earth in his tavern inside his dimensional art store for people who want to use his secure dimensional art store as an internet cafe. In return, he will get the art points and berry, which is like hitting two birds with one stone. Let's not forget that he can also create other manga and display them in his stores. After all, he's not limited to One Piece manga alone. Of course, he will die if he doesn't complete the One Piece manga, but he won't die if he doesn't complete the other manga. That's the difference. All this made Rob really excited. His newly acquired artistic sensibilities came back to interact with his excited state. He wanted to start drawing so badly. He has the papers that he can modify as he pleases in any color, shape, and size he desires. Just with some practice, he can create the perfect volumes of manga, all thanks to the unfathomable paper devil fruit. And he has a photographic memory that records everything he saw about One Piece, whether in the manga or the anime, in boring details. And this is his real capital and what he will rely on to get fame and glory and save his life. And also have a high-level talent for drawing, which will be a cherry on the cake. After all, he was a skilled painter in his previous life, only in drawing by computer, but if he wanted to use his hands to draw, he couldn't do that at all. With this talent, he can embody everything in his memory perfectly. He was really happy with his smart and perfect choices in the survey. It's good that he chose well and didn't miss the chance. That was because he really loves One Piece, or else he would have made stupid choices in the survey and caused a disaster for himself. The thing that really made him speechless was the immortal body that does not die. How the hell did he get this body? He didn't ask for this at all. No, it's better to say he didn't dare push his luck too far. All he asked was for him to be strong enough to protect himself and live a good life. This situation reminded him of a satirical novel he had read in his past life in which the protagonist had attained an ultimate and indomitable buff ability called immortality. Almost the same thing happened to him. The immortal body he obtained is no different from the immortality that Lin Fan obtained at all. The only difference is that he is under the threat of death if he doesn't fully achieve his interesting target, and if he did not delight the higher beings who sent him here. Chapter 4. Paper Devil Fruit. It would be ridiculous if he said that he wasn't happy with his immortal body. He was destined to become an indomitable god in this world and possibly other worlds later. He has an immortal body. What more could he ask for? The more he thought about it, the more he felt his cells ignite with sheer enthusiasm. That feeling. That's adrenaline. It was the same feeling he had when he succeeded in penetrating the protection of the servers of the most powerful nations of his previous world and learning the secrets hidden away from the eyes of ordinary humans. Yes, he felt like a peerless being, as if he had gone back to the old days when he was nicknamed Net's Ghost. In the past, he was hiding in the dark like a sewer rat and not daring to stay outside for long. But now everything will be different. Rob looked at the warm sunshine on his face and felt satisfied. This world was so real. It looked more amazing than in the real world. The sky was bluer than the sky above the earth and full of lining clouds on which other life forms might live, and the sea was bluer and full of rich sea life. It seemed as if the color of the water was really blue and not colorless. All this just shows how clean it is, this world, compared to his previous world that was already waiting for death, unfortunately. When he saw Alvia before and compared her to the beauty of the models in his memory, she seemed like an improved and more refined version of them, just like that perfect 3D he was once making. His wife was really beautiful. She was so beautiful that he felt so happy to have such a wife just by crossing into this world. He made a promise to himself that he would protect her forever and not let her suffer that miserable fate in the original story. After all, it was decided that he would not die in this timeline. Rob looked at his hands that had turned into rows of interlocking white paper with an analytical look. This was the first time he had used this paper devil fruit's abilities. He had tried making the paper he created with his hands become sharp and hard, and had succeeded in doing so with some relative difficulty. As for Rob, he chose this devil fruit to use to create manga volumes, not for use in combat. As for what he would use in combat from now on, it would of course be his sword until he found other fighting methods. After all, he was a powerful swordsman who mastered 2 types of hockey and could rival a powerful vice admiral of the Navy. Not only that, but he had a famous sword of a supreme grade and one of the 12 best swords that ever existed, Tsurajiri. Tsurajiri was a famous sword that was said to be able to slash the sky itself if its owner was strong enough. And this powerful sword followed the former Rob for many years, even before he joined the Roger Pirates, when Rob was just a lone wolf who gained the kindness of Roger and Rayleigh and joined him into the crew by force. It was because of the sword that he was able to catch the attention of someone of Roger's level anyway. Rob came back from his ideas and used his rich imagination to create different shapes of paper. Getting used to the devil fruit was a difficult task at first, but with time Rob was able to adapt to creating paper and manipulating it somewhat skillfully. With his immortal body, he had infinite stamina. The problem that all devil fruit eaters had of rapidly depleting their stamina was never applicable to him. An immortal body had cells regenerating every second, his stamina was active all the time, and he had an inexhaustible life force. It was an impossible existence embodied in human form that simple. As he continued to practice summoning paper and shaping it into different geometric shapes, different sizes, different thicknesses, and even different colors, the day flew very quickly. Rob spent the whole day in the stern of the ship, which was a place far from the eyes of others. And with the help of his observation hockey, which he could use easily, Rob avoided any attempts to investigate his situation, but he didn't ignore Alvia's coming to check on him from time to time. And at night she came with a dish of delicious dinner in her hand. Rob quickly finished the dish, and he went back to training. When she learned that he was eating a devil fruit, she was surprised, but she didn't think much. Between herself and her husband there weren't secrets. She loved him and he loved her. So she knew that he wouldn't hide anything from her if there was one thing that amazed her today, his energetic and abnormal state for which she had no explanation yet. After all, she knew that he would die in a few years, and she was already ready to catch up with him in her heart, which was why he had been depressed the whole time since parting with Roger's crew and following her. But now it was just the opposite, as if he wasn't going to die. While she was thinking how good it would be for her gentle husband to live with her forever, she fell asleep with tired eyes and heavy thinking as she watched him train hard to summon and control the powers of the devil fruit. When Rob noticed that Alvia was sleeping on the cool wooden deck of the ship, he stopped training and quickly took her in his arms. She was like a sleeping angel in his eye. He sighed a little pity and walked towards their room on the lower deck of the ship. He knew that it was carrying deep sorrow over his previous fate, but he hadn't yet found a logical way to tell her that he would not die. Rob took it all in his heart and went down the stairs towards the basement of the ship. The ship was as big as a merchant ship. It had so many rooms that there were many partners on the ship, all of whom were archaeologists from his wife's team. To these archaeologists, Rob was a wonderful man who protected them from many pirates and dangers to the West Blue, but his former shy nature prevented him from merging with them so deeply, and for that reason, he always went to the stern of the ship to question for the meaning of life. Rob was really wondering how this guy could confess his love for Alvia. When he came back to examine the memories, he almost fell in shock. Alvia was brave enough to admit it to him. What a truly brave woman she was. Chapter 5. Arrival to O'Hara. Rob left Alvia on the bed and combed over her white and soft hair for some time. Although her hair was a little short, it was absolutely gorgeous. As if sensing his warm touch, Alvia smiled happily and sank deeper into a warm sleep. Rob exited the room and returned to the stern of the ship in order to train more and more on the abilities of the devil fruit. While turning his body parts into paper, remembered a female character from the anime of Naruto. She had the same ability that he currently has. Yes, Conan can use paper in a very good way even in combat. Through his photographic memory, he retrieved everything about Conan from the anime and manga and found that he could even fly with his devil fruit power, which was a pretty cool surprise. With one idea, a lot of black paper accumulated on his right side and formed a large black wing, and unlike this black wing, on his left side many white papers formed in a white wing, but it does not differ in size and precision from the black wing. Everything is different about them as the color. Rob looked like a half-angel and a half-fallen angel at this moment. His body was semi-papery, as if he could rise from the ship by relying on the force of the wind. He started flapping his paper wings and only rose slightly from the deck, but fell back. Flying now was difficult and needed a lot of training and skill. The most important thing Rob concluded was that it was possible. Only this was good enough. The more he trained, the more he discovered that this ability had truly unlimited potential. His immortal body helped him to develop the ability and raise its efficiency extremely quickly. In one day, he raised his ability mastery level by at least 2 levels. He was sure that he could fly freely in 2 days at most if he continued to train with the same force. Rob didn't sleep all night and didn't feel like he needed it, so the morning sun shone on his face and he's still creating and scraping paper constantly. When he noticed that it was already morning, he had finally stopped training and rested a bit. After all, they would be in Ohara at the end of the day, and he would start his revolution against the pirates' world as soon as he reached that island. Rob sat on his usual seat at the stern of the ship and drew the sword that had been hanging around his waist the whole time in a well-designed red metal sheath. Leaving the scabbard on the side, he looked toward the sword with the shiny black blade and the white patterns at the bottom of the blade. The sword was similar to the Zoro Shusui sword, but it was longer and looked stronger. The aura surrounding the sword was sharp, as if it could cut anything just by getting close enough to it. Armament. Relying on his mental and even muscular memories, Rob tried to use his armament haki to encase the sword. As expected, his hand turned ink black with a faint purple aura and began to cover the sword little by little. The sword didn't resist him and succeeded in completely enveloping the haki. A sharp and indomitable power gathered in the sword, and with the swordsmanship skill that was engraved in his bones, he directed the attack towards the sea. Boom! It happened so quickly as an air-cut energy blade shot its way, splitting the sea for 50 meters before the attack dispersed. This show was so amazing it caused everyone who was still asleep to wake up. The cutwater rose by over 10 meters and caused a small rainbow to appear. This little experiment caused the ship to vibrate repeatedly with the waves. What's happening here? Is it a sea monster? Is a sea monster trying to sink the ship? Don't worry, we have Mr. Rob with us. Even if he is a sea king, he will be cut to pieces. Rob's experience freaked out the crew, especially the people who woke up because of the commotion. Don't be afraid. It was me, guys. I'm sorry. My training this time was too troublesome. What? Is there something on my face, you guys? Rob was surprised by the shocked looks of a group of archaeologists at this moment. Mr. Rob, then the previous commotion was because of your training. There is no need to apologize for something so simple. A man who seemed to be of particular stature among these scholars stepped forward and gently patted Rob on the shoulder as he spoke. Then I appreciate your kindness. Rob wasn't one to deny the kindness of others, so he responded politely. Really strange, Mr. Rob. We have been at sea for a month now from New World to the West Blue, but this is the first time you have spoken to us so fluently without being shy and away. The group of archaeologists was made up of 5 women and 5 men, all partners. His wife was the leader of this team, but she was celibate before she met him when her team boarded the ship Roger last year. They got close to each other on Roger's ship and even simply celebrated their wedding on Roger's ship too. Those memories were among the happiest memories of former Rob. But the former Rob had a problem where he couldn't communicate well with people he didn't have a deep emotional connection. The archaeologists from his wife's team were from the people he couldn't communicate with them very well. Every time he tried to communicate with them, he would get into an awkward situation where he would forget everything he wanted to say. This was a rare emotional disorder that former Rob suffered. For Roger's crew like Roger and Rayleigh and those naughty Shanks and Buggy and other strongmen like Bullet, Gabon, And the ship's Dr. Crocus Rob had no problem communicating with them normally because they were his crewmates with whom he fought alongside and lived with for years. And Alvia was a special case because she was the woman who stirred the feelings of love within his heart, so he got over his emotional turmoil and was able to communicate with her smoothly with the help of the power of love. But this does not apply to other archaeologists who were also on Roger's ship. After thinking deeply about it, understanding why these men and women were surprised because they had been accustomed to the shy Rob for so long now. In their eyes now, Rob who spoke with them so easily is not Rob they're used to. Don't worry guys, you can think I'm used to your presence, don't think about it too much. The man who patted his shoulder and the other scholars were speechless at this moment. If Mr. Rob has gotten used to us, that's something to celebrate, isn't it, guys? The man's wife stepped forward and removed the mysterious atmosphere with her persuasive words. Yes, you're right, my dear. This really is an event worth celebrating. Alvia was also woken up by the commotion. Although she was later than the others, when she went up to the deck, she was surprised to see her husband talking freely and fluently with the members of her crew of archaeologists. She was also aware of her husband's psychological problems due to tragic events he had experienced in the past, and she was also aware of the difficulty of communicating with others for him. A sight like this made her feel really happy. The flight time kept running out, and this time Rob didn't practice perfecting his papercraft because he had already learned everything he needed, but spent the rest of the time beside Alvia. Rob couldn't hide his huge change in personality from anyone else. After all, he wasn't Rob who was having emotional problems. He was Rob who understood the meaning of life very deeply. Since he couldn't hide his shining and bright personality that was being suppressed in his previous world, he only unleashed it and left everyone else wondering what had happened in the world. Alvia became happier because her husband was much braver and more romantic than he was before, and she didn't care about anything else. After all, this was her husband, and he was trying to please her right now. Why should she even think of anything else? At the end of the day, an island appeared. In its middle, a huge tree so tall that its branches touched the clouds in the eyes of the passengers of the ship. This was the Tree of Knowledge and the symbol of O'Hara Island. They were finally home. Chapter 6. The System Shop. O'Hara was a small island inhabited mostly by archaeologists. From the information he obtained from Alvia while he walking with her around the island's shore, the island's population was about 20,000. Most of them are concentrated in the city of O'Hara, located behind the Tree of Knowledge, and the rest are scattered around the few villages on the island. The island was self-sufficient and rich in arable land and rich forests with wildlife, which provided sources of sustenance for hunters. As well as the sea fishing is very good thanks to the warm sea currents surrounding the island, which brings an abundant amount of fish towards the areas around O'Hara. All this contributed to the fact that O'Hara Island is self-sufficient in terms of living and is dedicated to exploring the mysteries of unknown history. The return of the team of archaeologists from their trip this time was good news for the rest of the archaeologists in O'Hara, most notably Clover, who was a professor and director of the O'Hara Library and a leading authority on archaeology. All the colleagues of the profession at the Great Library of O'Hara were reunited within the Tree of Knowledge and were very happy that Alvia and the rest had returned safely from the New World. Regarding this, everyone was introduced to the person who helped get all the archaeologists back from their mission safe and unharmed, which was Rob, of course. At first, Alvia and her crew were worried that Rob would find it difficult to communicate with Clover and the others, but they were stunned when they saw Rob talking to them without problems. It was a truly amazing event. When they learned that he had become Alvia's husband, they fell silent for a moment in an utter stupor as they burst into cheers of amazement and happiness. And even Professor Clover was thrilled to see his student who was a long-time single finally she gets a husband. Even Alvia was embarrassed by their reaction, but Rob grabbed her hand and laughed at these archaeologists' wit. A Sleepless Night's title was a celebration of the newlyweds at O'Hara's Great Library. The next morning, Rob walks out of Alvia's house, which is now also his home since he is her husband. Yesterday, they drank a lot, and when they came back from O'Hara's library, They intertwined on a tumultuous night whose title was making love with all their ability. A/N, I don't see anything. Maybe last night will be the one that will produce little Robin. Rob's face was red right now. After all, this was their first night. They had never had any sexual contact before because they only got married a month ago and were at sea all the time, and they didn't really have the time to enjoy a real marriage, and this was also contributed to by even the former Rob, who was very shy. This means that the former Rob did not really marry Alvia, and it was the current Rob who consummated this marriage as it should be. Okay, well, forget it now, you can think about it later, Rob. Now it's time to start it all. Rob pulled himself out of his wild thoughts with difficulty. After all, his photographic memory had recorded every moment of yesterday's hot events. Needless to say, despite his enjoyment last night, he was not satisfied too much, because he had endless energy and unlike him. His wife was very weak. Perhaps he should make her immortal somehow. Not thinking about it was as hard as climbing the layers of hell. Alvia's house is located in Knowledge Village, near the Tree of Knowledge. Rob was really puzzled about where he would open his art store. Will he open it near the Tree of Knowledge or go to the city and open it there? On the one side, he wanted to connect his dimensional store to one of the big icons in the story of One Piece, and on the other hand, he wanted to acquire customers faster. After all, most of O'Hara's residents live in the city. Rob stopped and sat on a public bench along the road to town. Still within the Knowledge Village where the Knowledge Tree was, he wanted to ask the system about the art store so he could decide where to open it later. System, does the location of the dimensional store inside the island matter? No, it doesn't matter. Why is it not important? When the dimensional store opens, everyone in the area will know about its existence. I assure you, everyone will be curious about it. Well, how do I open the dimensional store? S/N. Dimensional store equals art store. The garden behind Rob was a lonely place to open his art store, as it would be adjacent to the knowledge library at that time. Look at where you want to open your art store and think about building a dimensional store. Before that, do I have any gift for beginners or something? Rob had forgotten about the matter, so he hadn't asked yet. The host already has a small gift. You have earned 10,000 art points. You can use them to shop in the system shop. Actually, Rob wasn't expecting anything, but was surprised to get 10,000 art points. This was better than nothing. Rob looked toward the status window, which was very simple. Where it contains System Level, Level 1, 0/100. Art Store, 0, 0/2 Usable. System Shop, 10,000 art coins. He pressed the system store and saw a lot of modern items in every field being sold in the system store connected to the ground. But the most important thing Rob searched for and unfortunately did not find is the manga folders and anime discs. It seems as if the system does not have any loophole. Anything it has to do with manga and anime and is not available in the system shop, which means that he has to create all of this himself and without relying on external sources. Regardless, Rob was really happy with this kind of shop. He could even buy a commercial plane if he wanted to, and he had enough art points. Although the number of art points needed to buy a plane is in the millions, it's still a fair deal for Rob. At least a Mercedes-Benz can be bought for tens of thousands of art points. The more Rob saw the items available in the system shop, the more and more excited he was. Even the satellites were available. It was truly beyond imagination. Chapter 7. Opening the first art story. Rob had 2 art stores that he could open at level 1 of the system, but he believed that number would double at advanced levels. The world of pirates is so huge that Rob dreams of covering it completely so that every intelligent being in the world can enjoy the manga that the immortal Rob will compose from now on. In the future, Rob will have 2 main jobs to do. The first is to draw manga and the second is to take care of his family. Just thinking about what kind of fun life he's going to have from now on makes him feel so happy. Especially after thinking about how he would have a very cute daughter like little Robin. Just thinking about it made his heart flutter with happiness. Robin will definitely be his weak point in the future. Through the system shop, he can even turn the pirates' world into a modern world with Earth specifications if he wants to. Rob returned to reality and finally decided to open his own store in the garden next to the Tree of Knowledge. It was now early morning when the sun had not yet risen, so the place was empty as he was the only person in the garden. The moment Rob decided to open the dimensional art store, a strange phenomenon occurred where the space in the garden space began to distort, shrink and expand, and a huge building began to form out of nowhere. Little by little, the appearance of the building began to be completed until the distortions in space disappeared. The building in front of Rob looked very modern, exceeding even the specifications of the modern Earth, like a building from most advanced civilization, even than the civilization of the Earth. It looked like a cinema building, but more interesting. In the sky above the building, a luminous and three-dimensional advertising facade appeared, like a lighthouse, written on it in bold. Dimensional Art Store. Below it is a wide whiteboard, which obviously needs Rob to fill it. Ding! The owner can think of a single image to advertise in the storefront and an interesting sentence too. Soon Rob thought of a picture of the crew of Straw Hats gathering at the beginning of their journey in East Blue with the well-known title, One Piece, and the same image was magically imprinted in his mind in the huge advertising beacon hanging in the sky. Also, a great marketing words also appeared under the name of the store. Dimensional Art Store, where you can enjoy by the future of the world. This was totally miraculous. Rob was sure that only the blind couldn't see this on O'Hara Island. Even ships in the distance could see the lighthouse-like Dimensional Art Store sign, but with futuristic technology. Rob was stunned and speechless by the store's design, which seemed sophisticated, stunning, and impossible at the same time. The ad banner began hanging in the air and defying gravity as if gravity didn't exist at all. No matter how hard he tried, Rob didn't understand how this could work. The art store on the floor had the same advertisement, but the store door was locked, waiting for the owner to open it. Congratulations on opening your first art store. Available art stores, 1/2. The path to conquering realms through the arts starts here. You've got a new title, Art Seller. Art Seller. From now on, your words will have a certain level of persuasion to customers. Characteristics of the Dimensional Art Store at Level 1. Indestructible. The owner inside the art store is invincible. Customers inside the store can only be harmed by the owner. Teleportation between other dimensional art stores. Artistic items sold by the art store cannot be destroyed. The store can sell on its own without the need for the owner to be present. The Dimensional Art Store can evolve and get new features as the system level gets higher. Rob was absolutely stunned by the characteristics of the Dimensional Art Store. It was just too illogical. Items sold from this store cannot be destroyed. This means that whoever wants to destroy their manga-like world government is doomed to fail before they even try. Rob walked into the Dimensional Art Store and was amazed at the all-white space of the store and the vast interior that looked the size of a football field. The owner can modify the Dimensional Art Store as he likes. A mini-map of the Dimensional Art Store appeared on the window of the system, in which he could modify everything in the inner building with his thoughts. Rob didn't hesitate and divided the vast building into 3 sections. The first section, like a supermarket, has rows of shelves where hundreds of thousands of manga volumes will be placed for sale. The second section will be like an internet cafe where those who want to stay in the art store can choose their own soundproofed room so that they can immerse themselves in reading manga without disturbance, or in the trendy tavern in the section. And the third section will be his personal place, where he will create manga folders and use it for his personal convenience and teleportation between dimensional art stores. This section will be prohibited for customers to enter. Rob didn't forget to add the sanitary facilities such as the modern toilet, etc., in addition to the coffee machines and food vending machines that he bought from the system shop, and he spread them in the inner building between all the 3 sections. After all, these little guys will return him the art points he bought them within a short period of time once that the obsession with culture begins to spread among people in this world. Rob's art store may become safe rest points for pirates in this world. Well, Rob won't treat them harshly as long as they don't cause him trouble and give him art points. Rob imagined images of the Straw Hat Pirates in the saga of East Blue, the first part of the manga One Piece, where the images combine Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Sanji and Usopp on the Going Merry ship and decorated the walls of his store with many group and individual photos of the crew at the beginning of their journey, such as advertising on the external interface of the art store. These murals will change with each new arc. The interior space wasn't white anymore. It looked like a real 5-star manga store at that. After that, he didn't forget to put a list of strict laws in front of the door of the store to ensure that everything is organized without problems, and he didn't forget to put his full name as the owner of the store in the list, so as not to confuse anyone and think that this place has no owner. His full name was Roods D. Rob. Yes, the former Rob was a member of the D clan too. Regarding the laws in the Dimensional Art Store, it was like a heavenly will whereby the people who violated it will be dealt with by the Dimensional Art Store itself, whether it is expulsion, ban, temporary punishment, or doubling the price will vary from law to law according to the seriousness of the laws that have been violated. Of course, there will be warnings before harsh punishment such as the final ban. There were many laws, but the most notable one it boils down to not causing trouble. Since the store itself was indestructible, these laws were basically just a formality to give the store a more formal character. In terms of working time, Rob decided to open the store during the day, 10 working hours a day. Ding! Would you like to apply the current design to all of your dimensional art stores? Yes or no? Yes! Rob didn't hesitate and decided that every art store he would open later would be like this as an initial design and he could change anything about later if he didn't like it. Chapter 8 East Blue Saga Romance Down Arc. The appearance of the Dimensional Art Store caused a huge commotion minutes after its appearance, as it was especially eye-catching by the huge banner hanging in the sky inviting people to take a look at what was going on here. Those simple people who woke up early in the morning either for work or shopping were immediately attracted to their attention. After all, the location of the art store was close to the Tree of Knowledge and not far from the city, which was more densely populated. What amazed these people and confused archaeologists is how this huge building appeared out of thin air. Yesterday it was not present at all. Outside, people gathered every moment in front of the store to form a group of people wondering what is happening in the world. But inside, Rob was drowning in his own works, was drawing the first folder of the One Piece manga, Romance Dawn. The method of drawing was rather simple, but in Rob's hands, his work seemed fantastic to any artist, as he reimagined the events of the chapters he had read in the past in the volume he created with the power of the devil fruit. Before that, Rob had bought all his drawing supplies except paper with the art points he got as a starter gift. After buying all that plus the coffee machines and food vending machines he had previously bought, he only had 4,000 art points left. High-level drawing talent and photographic memory plus the title of beginner mangaka was the best combination ever, as it all resulted in chapter after chapter with precision beyond even the original by many levels. And the most important thing is that Rob used his devil fruit ability to give colors and sound effects to the drawings. Drawn by hand, this makes the manga much more lively and fun. Although Rob can simply embody what is in his memory with the ability of the devil fruit, it would take a superhuman mental strength that he, unfortunately, does not possess now. After all, manga chapters contain a lot of meticulous work, where a world is personified through drawing, which is not something he can embody as it is in his memory. Rob preferred to use his talent for drawing to keep things simple. With all these miraculous abilities, Rob took an hour to paint the entire first volume, which consists of 7 chapters from Chapter 1 to Chapter 7. This was the first arc of the East Blue Saga called The Romance Dawn. This arc sums up to show the story of how the protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy acquired the abilities of the Devil Fruit, and also about the latter's desire and dream of becoming the Pirate's King. Then Luffy sailed when he reached the age of 17 and met a boy named Kobe and helped him escape from a female pirate named Alvida. Finally, Luffy tries to convince pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro to join his crew while facing the tyrannical Navy captain Axehand Morgan. Rob recreated the first volume of manga One Piece in a very cool way. The drawing was very new and not as old as the original, and using the paper devil fruit, Rob really succeeded in giving life to the legendary manga. Rob was thrilled with the successful start of production and was very anticipating how the people of this world would react to this manga. Now that he's finished with the drawing already, the rest of the work won't be difficult at all. This time, too, it would depend on the Devil Fruit's ability to copy the original volume he had drawn into thousands of other volumes. Since he had drawn the first 7 chapters already, he could copy it with the Devil Fruit ability quite easily. So it took him another hour to transcribe more than 10,000 entire volumes of 7 chapters. Rob didn't feel physically exhausted because he was immortal, and he didn't feel mentally exhausted either because he was a strong person. He can't be tired just to use Devil Fruit abilities for 2 hours. Copying is much easier than embodiment after all thing. The copy method was much simpler as he could copy anything drawn in the created paper to his ability by simply coming into contact with the paper he had previously created. In this way, he made thousands of volumes and actually put them on shelves where they would be sold from now on. Seeing the earlier empty shelves filled with manga volumes, Rob felt a sense of accomplishment enveloping his being. After careful consideration of the average financial condition of the Ohara people, Rob decided the price for 1,000 berry per volume. In addition, this price was the minimum allowed by the system. For archaeologists and well-to-do citizens, this price was really just a symbolic price, and for the poor also they could afford it in various ways. All Rob really cares about is art points. As long as he gets more art points, he'll be fine. Berry is just an extra bonus for him. He will get art points from the customer's satisfaction. If the customer is satisfied with reading the manga and has a desire for more, he will get more art points in addition to the EXP that will be the important factor to raise the level of the system. Now is the time for the important moment. Rob walked steadily to the store's reception counter, which is in the front of the interior space right near the door, here where he could receive customers and start the official sale. Open. The moment he finished speaking, the golden-colored shop gate opened wide, welcoming the first batch of customers. Outside, the crowd of dozens of men and women noticed the gate of the mysterious store slowly opening. They were finally ready to explore what was inside this divine building. What kind of art could be found behind those golden gates? And what kind of art where you can enjoy with it by the future of the world? The world froze at this moment as if Pandora's box was being to opening at this moment. No one felt the laws of the world that seemed to tremble right now, especially the law of fate. Chapter 9. Reading the first volume of One Piece. My dear, how can you create a profitable business like this without even telling me? Alvia stood beside Rob and grumbled nonstop since she was drawn to the mysterious building that had opened near their house and came to take a look to discover that her husband had opened an art store without even telling her. She felt wronged as any other wife who is not told of her husband's plans. All the shyness she had been feeling about last night's hot events had disappeared, but unfortunately, the pain from her lower area hadn't gone away yet. Rob was speechless because he discovered a new side of his wife today, how scary she was when she got angry. Even Rob felt threatened and hurried to put out the fire before it caught on. Not like that, it's not at all. This is the power of my devil fruit. I was just discovering its potential, and I didn't mean to create this building in the first place. After accidentally creating it, I had this interesting idea for manga drawing. Rob had thought about this matter well before. Anything abnormal could only be explained by something abnormal like the devil fruit. As expected, Alvia didn't suspect it at all because, after all, this building had appeared out of thin air. Its only explanation was the ability of a devil fruit. Isn't your ability to make paper only? No, I found out that it is much more than that. Hearing this, Alvia didn't want to push the matter too much and turned her attention to the many people who walked in and out of the store with beaming faces, carrying what her husband called manga volumes with them. There were a lot of children with their parents, and the young men too, male or female. Everyone who could read and could afford the price of a manga book was here. Besides, this place gave them a feeling of absolute safety. It was a strange and inexplicable feeling, but for some reason, they were sure that as long as they were here they would not die at all, and the god of death could only wait outside. In addition, this place had strange delicacies such as hamburgers, pizza, cans of Coke in those refrigerator-like vending machines, and cups of coffee that had never been seen before in this world. The taste of canned coffee was especially intoxicating. Once they tasted it, they felt addictive, so they would not be able to go back to their usual coffee anymore. In fact, the appeal of these products has even surpassed the manga volumes themselves. After all, these people wouldn't be drawn into the story so quickly because they needed to read it first. Director Clover. Director Clover. What? Why all this disturbance, Zadie? Clover was busy studying the latest research on the punlifts that Alvia's mission delegation had returned when he annoyed by his annoying student. Something big has happened outside. Look at this here. This is called a manga volume that is being sold in a mysterious building called the art store that has opened next to the library. By the way, the person who opened this store is Mr. Rob, Alvia-san's husband. Enough. I see. Stop and give me this. This Zadie was incredibly chatty. From the moment he started talking, it didn't end until Clover stopped him. Clover took an interesting comic book from Zadie, and the first thing that really surprised him was the title of this book. One Piece? Isn't this the legendary treasure on the final island? Only from the title did someone like Clover, who put his heart and soul into the study of history, immediately became interested. After all, this man was one of the few people, can be counted them all on the fingers of one hand, who knew some of the secrets buried around the Old Kingdom and the One Piece. So Clover opened the first page of this book, unaware of the huge change this book would bring to this world, and also unaware that hundreds of O'Hara people just like him had just opened Pandora's box. Clover's eyes gleamed with vague excitement as she fell upon the art depicted in a very exquisite manner. Isn't that the great pirate Gold Roger? Why do they say here that he is the Pirate King? Wait. Execute him. Equals. Wealth, fame, and power. The man who owned everything in this world. King of the Pirates. Gold Roger. The last words he said before his execution inspired people across the world to set out to sea. Roger, my treasures? If you want them, I'll give them to you. Look for them. I left them all in that place. Men are now chasing their dreams, heading toward the Grand Line. The world is now entering the great age of pirates. Clover felt a kind of excitement he had never felt before throbbing in his heart after seeing this page. He couldn't think of anything else anymore and continued reading the volume. The more he reads, the more he loves everything about this book, from the child protagonist Luffy, who ate a devil fruit as dessert, to the red-haired Shanks, and his adorable attitude when he told that brigand he could pour drinks on him, throw food at him, and even spit at him. Maybe he will laugh at it and pass it on, but whether the reason is good or not, no one can hurt a friend to him. This sentence was very inspiring to Clover, as he felt it carried a lot of emotion, which was embodied in the clip of Shanks sacrificing his arm for Luffy. No matter how Clover tried to think, he didn't remember the existence of a young, benevolent, and, most importantly, so strong pirate that he could scare a sea monster with just one look in this world. With this, Clover made sure that this story was fictional only for the sake of entertainment, and he did not connect it to the future at all. Not only him, but everyone else who read this volume. Since they thought these characters were fictional, they liked the heroes of the story like Luffy, Zoro, Shanks and his crew, and even minor characters like Kobe, Makino, and the good people of Fusha Village. But they felt some negative feelings towards the evil characters like Higuma, Alvida, Axe-Hand Morgan, and his son Helmeppo, all of which only showed how attached they were to the entertaining story from the start. Ding! Plus 10 art points from Lundolf. Ding! Plus 15 art points from Maya. Ding! Plus 22 art points from Kristoff. Ding! Plus 100 art points from Clover. Ding! Plus 95 art points from Nico Alvia. Ding! Plus 6,034 art points from 100 other people. Rob turned off the annoying sound of system notifications and glanced at the amazing amount of art points that started pouring down on him like rain and still going on. Rob noticed something interesting is that the names of ordinary people were less bright on the front of the system, but the names of well-known characters like Clover and his wife Alvia were brighter, and not only that, they provided much more art points than ordinary people. There were even regular people who gave 1 art point. No comparison with Clover and Alvia, who gave 195 respectively. Yet Rob has understood little of how this complex reward system works. Ding! Plus 100 people have completed reading the first volume, plus 100 EXP. System upgraded. 100/100. Level 2 of the system. 0/1000. Chapter 10. Alvia is pregnant. Level 2 of the system. 0/1000. Available art stores. 1/5. Inventory feature added to art store. From now on, the owner can use the interior space of a specific room of the art store as a portable inventory. Rob was happy when he finally leveled up the system, but he was even happier with the new feature he got. The inventory was very useful after all. I see that you are very happy as you smile for no reason, my dear. Alvia, who has just finished reading her husband's intriguing story, returns to her surprise to see her husband smiling strangely. Previously, when she was reading the One Piece manga, she knew Shanks, that little boy on Captain Roger's ship, with a glimpse, and was sure that her husband had really come up with his future looks and qualities. But she was confused as to why her husband gave his captain such a cruel fate as execution, although he made him the king of the pirates in the story. Anyway, she was willing to ask author-san about all this. Why can't I be happy when I have a beautiful lady like you by my side? Rob pulled Alvia into his arms, and the beautiful lady shivered like a cat whose tail was being pressed. Since her husband is changed, her usual bravery had become like dust. He had always teased her like this until now, but in fact, she secretly liked it. This was the kind of relationship to have wanted to live. There are people looking at us, you know. Aren't you a respectable store owner? Act like one. Alvia's face, that a bit brown, was redder with each passing second. So what? We are husband and wife. I'm just flirting with my wife here. Besides, I'm the god here, and you are the god's wife. Don't care about humans. Alvia was stunned by his words at this moment. Rob paused for a moment when he discovered something that left his mind blank, and then continued speaking after emerging from his stupor. Alvia, you don't have to worry and fear constantly. I will never die. How can I die and leaving my wife behind me and this little baby who's starting to form here? Rob touched Alvia's belly and spoke very gently. He had already decided to remove Alvia's constant anxiety and tell her the truth. Alvia shivered so hard that tears began to fall from her eyes. What did you just say? Upon thinking, Rob and Alvia disappeared from the reception desk and moved into a 5-star hotel design room, which Rob created in his personal section. Alvia didn't even feel like they had moved, but she still felt the soft bed underneath. But none of that matters at the moment because all her focus is on what she heard from Rob. The devil fruit I ate is very powerful. Even now I don't know its name. It was the reason for destroying the disease I was suffering from, so I won't die. No need to think about this again. Rob felt remorse for lying to his wife, but as soon as he saw her stunning smile at this moment, his regret flew out the window. I'm happy. I'm very happy. This is the best news I've ever heard in my entire life. I think Captain Roger and your crew comrades will be happy too. She hugged him tightly as she spoke nonstop, happiness evident on her pretty face. Yeah, I think so too. But the most important thing now is this. Rob pointed to his wife's belly, laughing happily. Didn't you hear my previous words? We're going to be parents. Here, I can feel a little life taking shape in your womb. My dear, that means you're pregnant. I'm pregnant. Alvia was shocked and didn't know how to respond at all. Even Rob at the moment was above the clouds, since he was so busy before that he didn't focus his senses well around his wife, only when she got close enough to him to notice the little life aura in her stomach via the observation hockey. Rob was already expecting his wife to get pregnant soon, but he didn't really think it would be so fast. Yes, you are pregnant. I found this out with my hockey. You and I are going to be parents in the near future. Alvia couldn't believe that life would give her 2 big surprises in one day. Rob hugged Alvia and they fell onto the king-sized bed. He was so excited he wanted nothing more than to hug her and sleep beside her for as long as possible. Let's forget everything else. Today we celebrate the first day of our little girl in her mother's womb. Rob was sure that the little seed in his wife's womb was Robin. Our little girl. Do you already know the gender of the baby? Even Alvia marveled at this. The gender of the baby can't be determined yet, but I have a feeling it will be female. Alvia smiled happily when she saw the look of longing on her husband's face and decided to believe his words. Well, I believe in you. Rob hugged Alvia deeper into his embrace and began to whisper in her ear. Robin. Our baby's name will be Robin.